In 1939, I became the youngest person to give birth when I had a baby named Gerardo at just the age of 5. My name is Lina Marcela Medina de Gerardo, or mostly known as Lina Medina. I was born in 1933 in Chacapo, Castrovirreyna Province, Peru to parents Tibirello Medina, a silversmith, and Victoria Lozia. I was one of 9 children. In the early spring of 1939, my parents noticed that I had an enlarged belly. Fearful that the swelling was a tumor, they took me from the family's home in Chacapo to see a doctor in Lima. To my parents' shock, the doctor discovered that I was 7 months pregnant. And on May 14, 1939, I gave birth via cesarean section to a healthy baby boy named Gerardo. At 5 years, 7 months, and 21 days of age, I became the youngest mother in the world. My pregnancy at such an early age obviously came as a disturbing shock to my loved ones and the public. But to pediatric endocrinologists, the idea that a 5-year-old child could get pregnant wasn't entirely unthinkable. It's believed that I had a rare genetic condition called precocious puberty, which causes a child's body to change into that of an adult too soon, before age 8 for girls and before age 9 for boys. My case took pediatricians by surprise and attracted international attention that me and my family never wanted. Despite the mystery that continues to surround the case of the world's youngest mother, more insight has come to light on how I got pregnant, and who the father may have been. Oftentimes, the cause of precocious puberty can't be identified. However, recent studies have found that young girls who were sexually abused may go through puberty faster than their peers. So there are suspicions that precocious puberty might be accelerated by sexual contact at an early age. In my case, Dr. Edmundo Escamo reported to a medical journal that I had my first period when I was only 8 months old. However, other publications claimed that I was 3 years old when I began menstruating. At my early age, I didn't pay much attention about it. But I must say that either way, it was a shockingly early start. Further examination of me showed that I had already developed breasts, wider than normal hips, and advanced, that is, post-pubescent, bone growth. But of course, even though my body was developing early, I was still very clearly a young child. Precocious puberty partially explains how I got pregnant. But of course, it doesn't explain everything. After all, somebody else had to get me pregnant. And sadly, that person probably wasn't a little boy with the same condition that I had, but a predator who took advantage of my innocence. I never told her doctors or the authorities who the father was or the circumstances of the assault that led to my pregnancy. But due to my young age at that time, people think I might not have even known myself. Dr. Escamo said that I couldn't give precise responses when questioned about the father clearly because I was just 5 years old, supposed to enjoy my childhood rather than having those public attention. Tibirello, my father who worked as a local silversmith, was briefly arrested for the suspected rape. However, he was released and the charges against him were dropped when no evidence or witness statements could be found to hold him responsible. For his part, my father strenuously denied ever raping me. In the years following the birth, some news agencies speculated that I may have been attacked during unspecified festivities that took place near our village. However, this was never proven. Once my pregnancy became generally known, it garnered attention from all over the world. Newspapers in Peru unsuccessfully offered our family thousands of dollars for the rights to interview and to film me. Meanwhile, newspapers in the United States had a field day reporting on the story, and they also attempted to interview me. Offers were even made to pay our family to come to the United States. But my family declined to speak publicly. It was perhaps inevitable, given the astounding nature of my condition and my aversion to scrutiny, that some observers would accuse our family of hoaxing the whole story. Furthermore, I have gotten good medical care, especially for the time and place in which I lived, and I gave birth to a healthy baby boy. Delivery was by cesarean section because, despite my prematurely widened hips, I probably would have had a difficult time passing a full-sized child through the birth canal. My child was named Gerardo, after the doctor who first examined me, and the infant went home to our family's village of Tecrapo after we were released from the hospital. 2 years after the birth, a specialist in child education at Columbia University named Paul Kosk got permission to visit our family. He then told the world that I was above normal intelligence and that my baby was perfectly normal. She thinks of the child as a baby brother, and so does the rest of the family, Kosk reported. My son thought that I was his older sister. He was 10 years old when we decided to tell him the truth. In my young adulthood, I found work as a secretary for the doctor who attended the birth, which paid my way through school. At roughly the same time, I managed to put Gerardo through school as well. I later married a man named Raul Gerardo in the early 1970s and gave birth to my second son when I was in my 30s. As of 2002, we were still married and living in a poor neighborhood in Lima. While my son Gerardo was healthy for most of his life, he sadly ended up dying relatively young at age 40 in 1979. The cause of death was bone disease. To this day, I had never told authorities who the father was, and me and my family still shun publicity and avoid any opportunity for a tell-all interview.